By 1997, Apple was in crisis. The company was bleeding money, losing nearly $1 billion in a year. Layoffs loomed, morale was shattered, and the product line was a confusing mess. Apple sold dozens of computers, Performa, Quadra, Power Macintosh, each with baffling model numbers. Even executives couldn't explain the differences. The company had lost its focus, trying to be everything to everyone and ending up nothing special to anyone. Market share had collapsed, Apple was seen as a relic. Developers and customers were abandoning ship. The press was writing Apple's obituary. Bankruptcy was months away. The board cycled through CEOs, but none could stop the decline. Gil Amelio, the current CEO, was a technologist but not the visionary Apple needed. He failed to make the tough decisions. Apple was dying a slow, painful death. It needed more than a new strategy, it needed a miracle. The company's soul, its creative spark, was all but gone. The question was no longer if Apple would fail, but when. The miracle arrived. Steve Jobs returned not as a hero but through Apple's acquisition of Next. Jobs came back as an advisor, hesitant at first but unable to watch his creation collapse. He saw the decay, lack of passion, confusing products, corporate inertia. But he also saw talent and belief buried beneath mismanagement. Jobs' presence was electric, he asked tough questions and challenged assumptions. His first move, radical simplification. He drew a 2x2 grid, consumer and pro, desktop and portable. Apple would make just 4 great products, one for each quadrant. Everything else had to go. This was a declaration of war on complexity and a return to Apple's core principle. Do a few things but do them incredibly well. It wasn't just about cutting costs. It was about restoring clarity and purpose. Jobs knew greatness comes from focus. By eliminating distractions, Apple could pour its energy into products that mattered. This was the beginning of the turnaround. It was a philosophy, not just a plan. Apple would stand for simplicity and excellence again. Jobs' vision was powerful, but Apple needed more than vision, it needed cash and credibility. The company was seen as doomed, especially against Microsoft's dominance. So Jobs did the unthinkable. He called Bill Gates. Apple needed a lifeline, and a partnership with its biggest rival was shocking. At Macworld 1997, Jobs announced Microsoft would invest $150 million in Apple. The crowd booed, but the terms were crucial. Microsoft's investment was non-voting, and they committed to supporting Office for Mac for 5 years. This assured customers and developers that the Mac had a future. In return, Apple dropped patent lawsuits and made Internet Explorer the default browser. Many saw it as surrender, but Jobs reframed it. Apple and Microsoft could both win. The money helped, but the real value was the public show of support. It signaled to the world that Apple was not alone. The partnership bought Apple something more valuable than cash credibility. Developers reconsidered the Mac. Customers regained confidence. The press changed its tune. Apple was no longer isolated. The comeback had begun. The Microsoft deal sent shockwaves through the tech world. Developers stopped fleeing, some returned. Customers, once hesitant, now saw the Mac as a safe bet. Wall Street noticed. Apple's stock surged. Internally, morale soared. Employees felt hope for the first time in years. The deal was more than money. It was a psychological victory. Apple was no longer a punchline. The sense of being on a sinking ship was replaced by excitement. The stage was set for a true comeback. With breathing room secured, Jobs attacked Apple's bloated product line. He slashed dozens of projects, including the Newton and Mac OS licensing. The message focused only on the 4 key products. This was tough, but essential. Talent was redirected to what mattered most. The chaos of the past was replaced by clarity and discipline. Jobs was ruthless, but he understood strategy is about what you choose not to do. By cutting away distractions, Apple's core grew stronger. Simplicity and quality became the foundation. The company was finally ready to build something great. The first result of Apple's new focus was the iMac. In May 1998, Jobs unveiled a computer unlike any before, all-in-one, translucent and boldly colorful. It was friendly, beautiful, and designed for the internet age. No floppy drive, just USB, controversial but forward-thinking. Marketing was simple. Plug it in, get online, that's it. The iMac was an instant hit. Magazines, movies, and homes everywhere. It sold hundreds of thousands, pulling Apple back to profitability. More than sales, it reignited Apple's identity and fan base. The iMac proved design was about how things work, not just how they look. It gave Apple momentum and cash to dream bigger. The iMac was the first step toward the iPod, iPhone, and iPad. It was proof. The comeback was real. Apple was back. Apple's turnaround is a playbook for crisis leadership. The Microsoft deal wasn't a bailout, it bought time and restored confidence. Jobs' new perception mattered as much as product. First, restore faith, then, simplify relentlessly. The 2x2 grid was more than a plan, it was a mantra. By focusing on essentials, Apple's strengths shone. Greatness comes from doing a few things exceptionally well. Ultimately, ship something people love. The iMac wasn't just a computer, it was joyful, stylish, and solved real problems. Apple's comeback signaled confidence, simplify, and create greatness.